out. Yay! Welcome, everybody. I think we might have some new people here today. I just got an email from a lady, Migdalia. I haven't done your chart yet, but I'll try to get to it today. If you're here now, you can come back later with chart in hand and things will make more sense to you. We're going to have a good time today and learn some really important things. It won't be too long of a meeting because we're going to do some Mongolian chanting afterwards on a Zoom meeting. Did you all get an email invite with the Zoom sign-in, I hope? Did you get the email with a Zoom sign-in? I hope you did. Okay, so today we're going to announce the contest winner, talk just a minute about that, not very long. And we're going to devote this session to learning about aspects, which we've sorely neglected. And sometimes people look at that as something hard. I'm going to break it down. We're going to make it easy. And Sean, you did not get an email. Paloma, you did get an email. Wow. Okay. I tried so hard to get everybody. I'm working on the email thing. I'm so sorry. It went out last night. Okay. So we're going to do transits and aspects of transits. All of this good stuff, so you can really start understanding your chart better and put things in practice and really learn some important things. But first of all, we'll go over briefly the contest, and I just want to address a couple remarks I had and questions quickly about that. One lady had made the statement, oh, she really didn't want to do it because anybody could look up the charts online, and so she wasn't too interested in that. Well, I'd like to bring up a very useful prayer that's good in situations like this, to keep this in mind. And I'm just going to paraphrase it because I may not get the words exactly right, but most of you have probably heard this. I think it's attributed to St. Francis, but basically, the idea is, Lord, grant me the patience to accept that which I cannot change. Grant me the courage to change that what I can change, and the wisdom to know the difference. So this is a really wise saying. And in this example of the contest, of course, you have no control over what other people are going to do, or if other people are going to cheat. You can't stop that. So better to put that, if you can just put that aside and think about your own progress in astrology. It doesn't really make any difference to your progress if someone else is a cheater. And this contest had a lot of things that would help stimulate your thinking so that you could see the big picture, how to tie things together. And in astrology, you call that synastry. You do the same thing in a tarot reading, where the meaning of one card is not all by itself because it's seen as being influenced by the cards that are around it and so forth. So in this case, that contest was there to help you learn a little bit about how to put things together. And I think I'm going to leave it up, and I'll put the answers at the end so that if you haven't had a chance to do it, you might have some fun with it and learn some things. And another person made a comment. There were 3 people they didn't know in that group. Well, the word notorious is a clue that these people are famous. So that's what Google is for. And if you hadn't heard of a few people, one just search of their name, you'd find out more than you ever wanted to know. Anyway, so here are the answers to the contest. I'm just going to say them really quick. Number 1 was O.J. Simpson. These are evildoers if you're new to the channel. We had a contest for a Halloween theme where you had to match the birth chart with the personality. And I gave you clues in it, so it's kind of fun to watch. Okay, number 1, O.J. Simpson. Number 2 was Nikita Khrushchev. Number 3 was Bernie Madoff. Number 4 was Bobbitt, John Wayne Bobbitt. Number 5, Mussolini. Number 6 was Lizzie Borden. Number 7 is Vladimir Putin. And number 8 was Scott Peterson. And there was one person who got all of them. And congratulations to Betty Harper, who wins a 2-hour reading. Yay, go Betty. Yay, Betty. Give Betty a hand. She worked really hard and spent a lot of time on it. And I'd encourage you guys to go over that. You know, when you want to do some studying up in astrology, you can look that over for some help. Okay, now we're going to go to aspects now. So let's just talk briefly about aspects. Aspects are the geometric relationships between planets. So if you're sitting here on Earth and you look up in the sky and you say, oh, the sun's right there overhead. And you say, whoa, I see, well, you're not going to be seeing many planets with the sun straight overhead. But let's say okay, let's put the sun on the horizon where we have a chance to see something else. Okay, sun's on the horizon. And Venus, which is always close to the sun, that's why it's called the morning star or the evening star, is just about really just a short distance away. And if you measure that as an angle, you might think, oh, that's about 30 degrees away, making a little angle with the sun. And that is telling you that how far apart those are. And there are certain angles that cause energy flow, energy freely flowing. So let's imagine energy as the water behind a dam. And I live here in Henderson, Nevada. I can see the Lake Mead from here. So if the water is flowing freely over the dam, which it hasn't done in some years, but hopefully we'll get more energy back soon, God willing. So if the energy is flowing freely over the dam, lots of water, then there are no obstacles to that energy flow. And there are certain aspects that are like that in astrology where the energy is freely flowing. And those are what we call soft aspects. People used to refer to them as fortunate. But it's not always fortunate, because if it's, let's say, Mars and Saturn or Mars and Uranus and you have the energy flowing freely, you're probably in a car accident and it's not that fortunate. So we call it a soft aspect because energy is moving freely between those things. Now, if there are obstacles to that energy flow or stress or impediments or things are not going smoothly, and the energy is not free-flowing, we call that a hard aspect. Now, I'm going to send you several handouts. I'm sending them off tonight or tomorrow, and I'm going to check the emails again and make sure I'm not leaving people off. The handouts I'm going to send you are several things, and this is one thing. This is just a picture of your perspective on Earth, and you're looking at different planets, and you can see an angle between the planets from your perspective. So this is one just to kind of look at. Now, here's the big one. This is a very important list. And this is telling the symbols for the aspects. This is conjunction symbol, and we're going to go over each of the symbols in order. And there's one word of meaning. I'm going to add some words to this so there will not just be one keyword, but a little bit further explanation. So you're going to see all the important aspects. And there are a couple that are not on this list, but we are going to do just the ones that are not going to cause you stress today, just the ones that you will be able to understand. So to help you understand how it works, we're going to look at this little example is the eclipse next week on Tuesday, election day. So let's pretend that that you want to look at something here at 15 degrees of Libra. We'll call this a starting point. You're just going to go around the chart and see if anything is making an aspect to this 15 degrees of Libra. Well, you can go to the next sign. The next sign is 30 degrees over. Each sign is a slice in the pie of the circle of 30 degrees. Why? Because there are 12 houses. The circle is 360. 360 divided by 12 is 30 degrees. Now, to simplify things a little bit, let's count by threes instead of by 30, just to make it easy. So if we start at Libra, we go over here to Scorpio, we're going to say 3, go to Sagittarius, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. At 18, we're halfway around the circle. So we're going to stop there, and you'll see why in a second. So 3, 6, 9. Say the numbers with me so you get this firmly in your brain out loud. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Okay, now in degrees, you just add a 0. So instead of 3, you say this is 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees, 120, 150, 180. Now, if there are planets going the other way, we'll just start at Libra and count this way. There's 30, 60, and so forth. And you go around to 180. And this is so that you are going to be going up to, but not exceeding 180 in your angles, in your aspects. So looking back at our list now, you'll notice that I gave you a more complete list. There are some that we're not going to talk about today, just because we want you to be able to find them easily. So the ones we are doing are the ones that are multiples of 3. A conjunction is when it's at 0. So conjunction we're going to do 30, we're going to do 60, we're going to do 90, we're going to do 120, we're going to do 150, and we're going to do 180. The other ones are just more difficult to find. And I don't want you to stress on this, so you're going to get comfortable with the main ones, which are multiples of 3. 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180. Okay, the sign for a conjunction looks like this. This is a symbol, and it represents the blended power of the two things involved. If your sun is conjunct Venus, then your artistic power, your social graces are very strongly connected with your sense of self. You're an artistic person, and you need peace and harmony around you, no doubt about it. Now let's go over the one thing we haven't discussed, which is the orb. The orb is how far apart those things can be. Let's talk about that Venus and the sun. What if they're exactly in the same degree? That's called partile. It's the strongest it can be. They're exactly together. Very intense. The further apart that they are, the less intensity there is, until pretty soon it's so wide that you don't count it. It isn't effective. So to be within the influence zone, that's called the orb. So the orb for a conjunction is listed here as 8 degrees. These are all rule of thumbs. This is modified by the circumstances. If the planets are really strong and there's a big stellium, a big bunch of them, you might extend the orb a little bigger. If it's the moon, it moves faster. You might make it a little bigger. But if they're two really slow-moving planets, and maybe they're going in opposite directions, one is going this way, one is going that way, and they're 8 degrees apart, moving away from each other, you might think that's a little too wide to be considered. So there is a little flexibility on that list depending on the situation. Oopsie, so let's go back to our list. So for this week, we're only going to discuss those aspects which are multiples of 3s, and we'll talk about the other ones after you have the multiples of 3 firmly in your belt, under your belt, because otherwise you're going to be confused. Okay, so you have a basic idea of the orb. Now, a semisextile is a 30-degree difference. That's from one sign to the very next. And the sign looks a little bit strange. It looks like a little line. Here it is, a little line on the bottom, and then a little V thing on top. Why is that the sign? Well, a sextile is 60 degrees, and this is the sign. If you take away the bottom part of the sextile, and you just look at the top line, that's the semi-sextile. It's half of the sextile, so it's logical that the sign would be half of the sextile sign. And the similar thing happens for the a little bit later. We'll look ahead. Anyway, the square, obviously that's the sign, 90 degrees. A trine from triangle, 120. The quincunx is 150. That's the hardest one to see if you're trying to count 50. Let's look at an example of a quincunx. 150 means that you have to go around the horoscope. 1 sign, 2, 3, 4. Here we are at 150. That's a little bit hard to do, and you can get lost. But if you just go straight across to the opposition, and you should be familiar with the oppositions, Capricorn is opposite Cancer. And it's just one less. 180 is the opposition, the opposite sign, and opposite signs are so important to be familiar with. And a quincunx is one less. That makes it easy to find. This would also be going from Mars in Gemini over here to Scorpio. That's another quincunx. So you have 2 quincunxes here pointing to Mars. It's like the finger of God. This is something in our eclipse, so we're going to talk about this in just a minute. Now, if you got lost along the way, I think if you review this, you will see how it works, but you're going to be putting this to practice in your own chart. And this is how this is not theoretical knowledge. This needs to be practical. So I'm sending you also in your handouts that I'm sending, this little worksheet. This is very similar to the tally up thing that I gave you where you were counting. Remember how you counted up how many planets did you have in fire signs? This is a chart where Saturn and Neptune were both in fire, so there were 2. In earth signs, there was just Mars, so there was just 1, and so forth. So I want you to tally up the fire, earth, air, and water, and then cardinal, fixed, and mutable, using as a reference your rulership handout that you got. So you're going to make that tally, and if you see anything unusual, like this horoscope had a grand cross in fixed signs. That meant the ascendant was a fixed sign, Neptune was in a fixed sign, Mars was in a fixed sign, and the Sun, Mercury, and the Moon were all in fixed signs. That's a grand cross, and you would put that in your notes because that's really important. Now, this is how you list your aspects. And I'm going to send you a bigger grid where you can write in, and I want you to look at find the aspects for your own natal chart. And we're going to work it backwards so it'll be easy for you, because you all got a printout of your natal chart. The one that had the word, the description we're talking about, the one that looked like this, it had words on it and that were describing your influences. Well, when you got that, if you'll look at it, you'll take it out and you're going to look over that chart, and you're going to look at the sun. It talks about your sun, and here's how you're going to fill in the chart. You're going to look at that piece of paper, and then it'll tell you what zodiac sign the sun is in. It'll tell you what house it's in, and then it tells you the aspects. And it doesn't use the symbol. It actually will say sun conjunct moon. Now, let me highlight that so that you can see it a little bit better. It'll clearly write out sun, the word sun, conjunct instead of the symbol, and then it'll write moon. So if you see that on your paper, you would put the symbol for conjunct right here, because this is this column is this is the sun going down with everything. And if the sun is conjunct, has any aspect at all to the moon, you'll write it in this empty square. The W stands for wide, so it was a wide conjunction. Let's say 9 or 10 degrees, it would be wide. So you're going to fill in your chart looking at the printed paper so you don't have to worry about finding them. And then you're going to look backwards. So going down this one, the sun also was conjunct something else. What? Mercury. So that would be what would be written on the paper, sun conjunct Mercury. So you'd fill it in. Going down this chart, here's one that you will see on your paper. It might say sun square, this is the square, 90 degrees to Mars. So you'll write that symbol there. After you've filled in your chart, you can, this little grid, you'll get a big idea. How many things do you have? How many conjunctions do you have? What's square? The squares are the hard aspects. You'll want to know where your troubles are, and where the squares are, that's where you're going to find them. This will be a big eye-opener for you, and it just takes some time for you to discover this in your own chart. Now, once you've done it, let's look back. This is the eclipse, but let's pretend it's really a person. And it would have said, Mercury square Saturn. And then you'll see that, yes, indeed, there's a red line on your chart going from Mercury to Saturn. And it would have the little square symbol over the line, and that's telling you what it is. So then you can verify from your chart if you've got all your aspects written down correctly. And this is a really big step in your astrology practice, because you need to know how to figure the aspects, what they look like, what the symbols are, and this way you'll be able to put everything together. I will add onto this grid ascendant and midheaven, and you can draw aspects to those angles also. But if you do not know the exact birth time, don't bother with it, because the degree on the ascendant changes every 4 minutes. It will change 1 degree. On this horoscope, the ascendant is 4 degrees of Libra. So you would check around to see if it will show you if you have any aspects to your ascendant or to your midheaven. But you needn't bother with that if you are not aware of your birth time. So I'm going to look over here if anyone has any questions of something that you really need further explanation with. You can write them here. Otherwise, you do have the advantage of YouTube is that you can rewind it and try it again. So you do have a homework assignment. One homework assignment is to fill out your grid. If you are a little bit more advanced in astrology, you don't need to look at your printout that's written to find it. But you can try it and do it yourself and go to your chart and see what you can figure out, and use that little system that I showed you of writing the 30, 60, 90, do that to make it easier for you. And then you should be able to fill in that chart. And I will, on your handout, give you some other words, a little bit more additional information of the nature of the, what is the meaning behind these words. I will go into it in a little more detail. But generally speaking, the ones that are soft aspects are the ones that are more the triangle, like the 60, 30, 120. The hard ones are the square, the 90, the opposition, 180, and the quincunx, which is a little bit softer than an opposition, but it's called adjustment. It's something needs fixing. You need to move things around a bit to get the energy flowing. It's not working just right, although a little more water is going over the dam than it is in the square, which is more stressful. So in a nutshell, those are the basic meanings of the aspects, but we are going to go over this more next in a couple of weeks when you've had a chance to work with these. Then we'll go over the ones that we haven't talked about yet. Now, the next step is for you to know, how do aspects work in reference to your transits? Here's the eclipse on November 8th again. Take a notice that this grand square, this is called a T-square with this red formation, because it's not a grand square, it's missing one leg. So if it's got 3 parts of the square, it's called a T-square. And these are all hard aspects, and please notice the degrees involved here. Saturn is at 18. There's Saturn. Let's highlight this one. Let's highlight the things we're talking about in a different color. Okay, so Saturn is down here, and it's in 18 degrees. Look at the other corner here with the Moon and Uranus. Those are at 16. Is that within orb? Yes, it's only 2 degrees apart. That's a close situation, and the conjunction of Moon and Uranus is exact. So that would be an E on your chart. If this was your situation, you would say, this is a conjunction. It's exact. A fancy astrological word for exact is partile. Now, over here at the other part of the remaining leg of the eclipse, and this is affecting all of us, remember, this is 15, 16, 20. So you could say that the main axis of the eclipse and Saturn would be centered with the numbers around 16, 17, 18, and there would be an orb, the orb of influence. If you had, to look at your own planets, if you had something over here in Leo and it was in, let's say, 12 degrees of Leo, would that be, let's say that you have something in 12 degrees of Leo, you would notice that's the missing leg of this T-square. It's going to hit you for sure. And if you have something in 12 degrees of Leo, that's definitely within the orb. So this is going to be strong for you. So look on your chart for any planets. Go around and see anything that's in that range. And you could make it, anything from 10 degrees, 8 degrees, all the way up to 25. And take a look at this other thing over here. This is the Mars and Pluto thing, the quincunx. Mars is at 25, Pluto is at 26. So you want to look around your chart for any planets that are at, say, 24, 25, 26, let's say 2 degrees from Mars, let's say 23 degrees or up to 28. So anything in your horoscope that's between 23 and 28 is going to be important for you. And remember that your printout that I gave you, the one that looks like this, that's the interpretation. Right at the top of that interpretation is a list of all your planets and what degree they're in. So you can just scan down the list and see if anything has those numbers in it, and then circle them on your chart and see what they are and where are they. Now, last week I wanted to point out someone's chart. I think it's this one here. Nope, hold on. Yes, okay. This is for somebody born on the 25th of October. And the eclipse is hitting him really hard. But I circled in blue. Let me show you the whole chart. In light blue, if you look around it, for all the things that are light blue and not real heavy lines, there's this is the eclipse Mars at 25. Look where it's right on top of the Jupiter at 26. Is that a conjunction? Yes. What about Uranus at 23? Yes. That's 30 degrees away. That's a semi-sextile. What about 24 Leo? Oh boy, we talked about that one. That's a big one because it's also the eclipse on the 8th. So all of these, everything, boom, this one is 24. Mars, her natal Mars is 25. Oh my goodness. Look at all these things. I wasn't highlighting it and I meant to be doing that. Let me do that. So her Mars, I'm doing a little bit of green, 25. Neptune, 23. Everything, and here's Mercury, 25. So remember I said some people are going to be affected by the eclipse more than others. So what do you think about this person? Well, yes, this is a big one. So this is how you check your transits. Now, if you're a beginner and you're feeling, I just can't find the transits, I can't figure out what they are, you're having difficulty, you're not a mathematically oriented person, if you want to send for your transit report for 3 months, that will bring you into, to the end of January, every transit you've got with the date and everything, I can send you a transit report. So the thing about transit reports, I'm charging people $5 for it. It's approximately 16 to 20 pages of information. Now, if you don't have $5, then you say, well, I just don't, I'm wondering if you'd send it to me for free. And of course I will. So there you go. So you get a free one if you need that. And if you have $5, I would be grateful because it does take a little bit of time, but you get it for free if you need that. And I'm really happy to do that. No problem at all. And that way you will see your transit report will look like this. This is how it will look. At the top of the transit report, you will see a date, October 9th. That's the date that this aspect they're talking about is exact. Next to that, you see a range of dates, August 13th to December 1st. That is the range in which this transit will be effective. It's effective for several months. Several months. That's when it's entering orb and passing to exact and then leaving orb. This is several months for this to be effective. What transit is it? Looking here is the answer. Pluto, let me make it bigger so you can see it more clearly. Hold on. Let me zoom in because I'm not sure you can see it. All right. Now, Pluto is sextile Mercury. No partile, meaning it's not going to be getting exact. So what would you guess this might mean? Mercury is your thought processes. Pluto is very deep. Now, if you're a medium, wow, you are really tuning in to the depth of your spiritual knowledge. So if you're a medium, there is a great depth of communication in your mediumship. But it could be, if you're not a medium or you're not tuned into that, everyone has mediumship abilities, but it could be some brooding, dark mental times. You know those times when you're feeling a little depressed and things, you're down, think you might be down a little bit? That could be one negative aspect of something of that sort. But you'll see in your transit report exactly what it's referring to, when it's effective for you, and when it's the strongest. So like that. Now there will be some lunar and Mercury transits that are very quick to pass. They will last for a couple of days, just a couple of days. And are those the real big important changes in your life? No. Here's an example. October 22nd to October 24th. This is kind of a short one. Venus is passing conjunct to Saturn. So it might be intensely felt, and you might be going, what's going on? There might be some bad news in a relationship, a breakup, or a lot of fighting in a partnership. Or if you're an artist, you're really having a writer's block. That would be a good example of writer's block, but it's only going to last a couple days. So if you're a writer, this is the time to not sit at your computer, but to go out in a nature walk and ponder things without stressing about having writer's block, and so forth. So this is what a transit report looks like. And these transit reports for 3 months depend on how many transits you have, which vary, but it's like 16 to 20 pages of information. And it will really help you if you're having trouble with the math, and you can see it, and then you can look on your chart and see where it is. You'll say, oh, there it is. Yeah, I see that. And then when you've had a little more experience, you don't have to worry about finding things, because that can be daunting. With experience, it'll be easy for you to see, though. Okay, so that's basically your homework is going to be to fill out this little chart, fill out the grid with all your aspects, check them out on your horoscope, see what notes you think are important. You have a T-squared, you have a grand cross, you have a grand trine. Fill out this, and you'll really have some revelations doing this process. And then look at your horoscope for these main eclipse points, and see what you've got being affected by the transit of the eclipse. This, we're going to talk, we have another Saturday before the eclipse happens, so we'll still be talking about it, because this eclipse will be effective in your life for about 6 months into the future. It's going to have a long duration. It's going to have big effects on society. And this brings us to the final point I want to make today. You guys are studying astrology because you want to know more about the influences in when your energies are flowing, and when there are going to be obstacles, etc., etc. Also about the choices that you make. This is a good example. Mars and Pluto being together could be, for lower vibrational people, it could be violence. This is an indication of things that will be happening. We saw that horrible, horrific thing, but there will be some pockets of violence and negative things. So we are going to bring out in ourselves the opposite effect. We're going to keep our vibrations raised, and we're going to bring light into the world. So you do need to keep your spirit up and keep focused on the positive aspects, and make choices that will lead you into a better place. And one way to do that, we were talking about the Mongolian chant thing, and we're going to have the Zoom meeting in a little bit. If somebody needs me to send the Zoom meeting, can you send me the email right now? You need the Zoom link, and I'll send it to you right now. So send it to Astrology Vibration, say need a Zoom link, and I'll send it to you right now. And we're going to be doing that meeting in about 20 minutes. I unfortunately was unable to, I did a test to show you how to reset the audio, and I can't do that in the middle of the Zoom meeting because the screen doesn't work right. So I'm going to have to make a little video showing you how to do that, and I'll post that on YouTube so you can see it, and I'll show that at our next meeting, show you the video, because I can show you a video, but I just can't do it live or it'll interfere with the settings. So I can't show you that, which means you're going to have to stay muted or else we'll have a chaos of sound. So you'll have to leave your mics muted just for today, and next time you'll be able to unmute your mics and we'll be able to hear each other all chanting together, which is when it gets really beautiful. Okay, so we're going to do the chanting, then you keep your mind on your astrology chart and how to live it in the best possible way. Now, ask for the most benevolent outcome so that each day, and ask for protection when you go out so that you don't get caught in around any negative people, and then you'll be good. So, any little questions? Yeah, Betty won the contest. Yes, have you all had a crazy month? Raise your hand if it's been super crazy already. Well, we're not through it yet. In fact, we haven't got to the most intense part yet. So use your chart to help you understand that, no, it's not in your imagination. This is really happening around you. And you know what? This too shall pass. We're going to live through it. And the world is going to be a much better place when we're done. And it has been proven that people, when they gather together and do chanting or meditation together as a group, that the actual intensity level for the desire for peace can be felt, but they have instruments that can measure that now, and it's quite wild, but it's true. So I'm going to see you at the Zoom meeting in a minute. Send me an email if you need a link, and I'll send it to you real quick. Just keep your mic off for today only, and next time we do it, we'll be able to turn on the mics for everybody. Any questions? Oh, your kitty had you had your truck crash. Yeah, Linda, you had a truck crash and a cat surgery. Oh my gosh. All right. So, any questions or comments? And make sure to put questions or comments under the video after it's posted. I do read all of those. And thank you very much. All right, we're going to go to phase 2. We're going to do our chanting. And if you need to review this video to help you with understanding aspects and angles, it's one of the harder things to understand in astrology. So don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. The transit report shows the symbols. Yes, there's a question. Here's a transit report. It shows the symbols. So at the top, so the transit report shows symbols like this, but the natal interpretation, which is the first thing I sent you when I sent it with your chart, had it written out for people who have no experience so they could understand it. But the transit report will look like this. So you'll see Mercury square Uranus. Uh-oh, everybody's nervous and fighting on this day. Keep your mouth buttoned down for a couple days. When you see this, you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to want to say it. I'm not going to say it for 2 days. And if after 2 days pass, I still want to say it, then I'll say it. But just hold off because you might regret something you say. So this is the answer to your question. Trans report has it written out with symbols, but the natal report will put it in words. Mercury square Uranus in words. Okay? All righty. This is a lot. This is big. This is so much for you to do, but do look at your transits for the eclipse, because that's a 6-month deal that's effective. Okay, I'll check my email if anybody needs the link to the Zoom. And if you're real shy, you can leave your camera off, okay? You don't have to show your face. We want you there present with us. So, love you all. Thank you so much. And congratulations to Betty. Betty, you send me an email telling me what days are good for you for a reading, and we'll make an appointment right away. Okay, bye everybody. Love you all.